Hello, my name is Doug Page. The vulnerable population that I'm presenting today are the elderly living alone, and this is some of their health concerns. So this group consists of older adults 60 years of age and older who live alone. This population is growing due to advancements in healthcare and effective prescription drugs. Typically, they do live on a fixed income. In general, they experience polypharmacy or multiple medications. They are at risk for social isolation and loneliness, and they are susceptible to chronic disease and other health conditions. Locally for Salt Lake County, 23% of those 60 and older live alone. Statewide, 19.2%, 27% nationally, and internationally, 16%. Utah does have fewer senior citizens living alone than the national average, and this might be due to Utah being considered one of the youngest states with a median age of 31. Some social determinants of health could be barriers for this group. One of the bigger ones would be healthcare access and quality. Due to their health conditions, chronic conditions, they might not be able to be mobile. They might have mobility issues or cognitive issues where they forget about appointments. Another factor is they might not be able to drive if they have poor eyesight. And so, due to their mobility or cognitive issues or other health issues, they might have problems getting to their appointments. Another barrier could be economic stability, as they are typically on a fixed income and maybe can't afford a car, which would transfer over to their ability to get to their healthcare appointments. Some specific concerns: loneliness, social isolation, and depression. They're low income or living on a fixed income, which can lead to poor nutrition and health. Transportation, again, this can affect healthcare access, shopping for food, ability to socialize. Chronic or other health conditions that can affect mobility, their cognitive conditions, the polypharmacy, self-neglect. Fall risk is one of the most common causes for hospitalizations of the elderly are falls, and because this group have no one living with them or caregiver to give them assistance, it can lead to death. Root causes for the elderly living alone: many of them might want to maintain their independence despite their health conditions. A sizable amount might financially be unable to afford living in a different setting. They might have estranged family ties, or their family just doesn't live close by. Maybe they don't have children, or if they do, they don't want to feel like they're a burden to their children. And many of them are divorced or widowed. So for Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a sizable amount of this group does struggle with even physiological needs, having enough food and sleep. But I think the majority of them meet physiological and even meet safety, or they own their own home. They kind of have a balance on their health. They're not necessarily employed due to chronic conditions, but I think physiological and safety are typically met. Where they start to become unmet are the love and belonging. Again, they live alone. They are at high risk for being socially isolated and lonely, which if they can't meet their love and belonging, they won't meet esteem or also self-actualization. So their anticipated functional level is safety. Likely health outcomes, because safety is where they are at and they don't have that love and belonging, they might become even more depressed. They might have their spouse that passed away, which leads to that depression and nobody around. Anxiety, this puts them at risk for self-neglect, and this would place them at higher risk for disease and chronic conditions, as they just aren't taking care of themselves properly. According to Health and Human Services, seniors experience loneliness or social isolation tend to have a more compromised immune system, making them more vulnerable to any communicable disease or infection. The main concerns for these diseases are pneumonia. This is the number one cause of hospitalizations and deaths in senior citizens. The next would be influenza or the flu, so making sure that they get their flu shot. MRSA is also something that is high, and then also C. diff. So some ways that things that can be done to help decrease transmission or acquisition of these conditions. Having a healthy, nutritious diet would help boost their immune system. Making sure that they're washing their hands often. Making sure that they have good hygiene if they're incontinent. Making sure that they're constantly cleaning up themselves. And bathing would be important. This would all help boost their immune system. And also, if anybody coming into the home, they would also need to make sure that they're washing their hands. That would help. Let me see. So, some non-communicable diseases that affect this group or infections. UTIs are the second most cause of hospitalizations. So it'd be important to teach them signs and symptoms of a UTI. If they've had chickenpox as a younger when they were younger, shingles could be a concern, and salmonella from not eating right, leaving things out, forgetting to put things back in the fridge, or not cooking things properly could lead to salmonella and other bacterial infections. Some chronic conditions that we see often in this group: high cholesterol and hypertension, which lead to heart disease, diabetes, chronic kidney. So all these conditions, ways that can help prevent and manage these conditions would be to make sure that they're taking their medications, maybe bringing in home health nurses if they have cognitive issues to be able to help manage their meds, make sure they're taking them, make sure that they know which ones to take, and educating them. And also maybe some home health aides to help keep the place clean, and just checking up with them. Some self-care concerns and self-harm concerns. Mobility problems can lead to problems with personal hygiene. They might not be bathing because it's too hard to get in and out of the tub. Maintaining their home, the cleanliness of their living space. This can lead to falls. Maybe they have a bunch of clutter that they can't clean up. Mobility issues can also cause malnutrition. They might not be able to stand for long periods of time and be able to cook. So for mobility problems, for nutrition, they could have like maybe Meals on Wheels come in. Once again, for other problems here, home health aides could come in to help them with bathing and their personal hygiene. Depression and mental health, suicide is a big concern. This could be the depression could be because of a loss of their spouse, or they don't feel like they're worth anything because they can't work. They're stuck in their situation. Medication overdoses and underdosing can be a concern, as sometimes it's hard for them to read the prescription labels. Sometimes they just forget. They don't realize that they've already taken their medication and they take another dose. Vision and hearing impairments are also a concern. Um, so some risks for harm by others. There's 6 types of elder abuse to keep an eye out for: physical abuse, emotional and psychological abuse, sexual abuse, neglect or abandonment by a caregiver, financial exploitation, and healthcare fraud and abuse. Those can be looked out for once again if they have home health aides or a nurse coming in. They could be kind of monitoring for that. Even though somebody doesn't live with them, somebody might still be taking advantage of them. Some concerns for risk of harm to others: if they're not supposed to be driving and they have access to a car and they are driving. Anger and aggression about their situation. That depression can lead to anger. Or if they have like a form of dementia, they might become combative, and have combative behavior. So, if they're not supposed to be driving, make sure they don't have access to that. Help them with their anger issues, allow them to talk about it, and just trying to help them in every way, make sure that they feel safe and That is my presentation. So here's my references, and thank you for listening.